In this short video, I want to talk a little bit about the group project for managerial finance. I am providing you with all the data that you will need to do this financial analysis. As you see at the very top, this is for Harley-Davidson, and here are the financial statements that I've gathered and input for the last couple of years. Here's the balance sheet. Here's the statement of cash flows. And in addition, I've also gathered information pertaining to Harley-Davidson, and this is from what's referred to as the Risk Management Associates Statement of Studies. And this is available in Thomas Moore's library. What you need to do is you need to find your company's NAICS number. You can do that by Googling it. And then in this book, they have the actual ratios that they've calculated for the industry that your company is in. So what is it that I'm going to ask you to do? We're actually going to do a complete financial analysis of your company. So if you scroll to the right, you will see a listing of all the ratios for the company. We have liquidity ratios, efficiency, leverage, profitability ratios. There are some miscellaneous ratios that you may want to look at and think about. Not all of these are in our textbook, but certainly they're here, so they are important. We will talk about a few of them, though. There are some market ratios, some cash flow ratios, net operating ratios. If we scroll down even farther, you'll see there's actually a mechanism that's called the Altman Formula. That's a bankruptcy prediction model. Numbers greater than 2 means very little chance of bankruptcy. So if you look across here, you can see Harley's in no real big problem. And then there are also some ratios that refer to the statement of cash flows. So again, all of these are ratios that you may use in your analysis of the company. Now, some of them are required, and some may just be the ratios that you might want to utilize to make your point. If we scroll further to the right, there are many other things here. There are common size income statements, balance sheets, show the relative proportion of items in the statements. There are change statements, the percentage of changes of things that happen in the income statement. If you notice here, over the last 5 years, Harley has seen a reduction in sales of about negative 1.25%. So again, that's the kind of information you get from there. Assets as a percentage of sales, right? Is there a relationship? See, on average, about 14% of their assets are cash compared to the sales of the company. So, if you expect the company to go up in 10% in sales, what do you think would happen to the cash? Well, it would go up 10% of 14.6%, or it would go up roughly 1.436% is what you would predict to be the change in cash. There is something called the DuPont analysis that breaks down return on equity, a free cash flow analysis that explores the components of free cash flow, and down below that, oops, I'm sorry, it's over here. Sorry, missed it. There is a cash conversion analysis section that looks at cash conversion. So all of these, hopefully I mentioned this one too. Here's the capital structure. Looks at the components down here. You can see that this last year, about 20% of the company was long-term debt. About 80% was equity. So again, lots of information that you can get from this spreadsheet. Again, you don't really need to gather any more data specific to the financial statements for the company. Now, what I've also provided is a series, if you look down below here, there are a series of graphs. So let's look at the very first graph that you're going to do or use. Oops, I'm sorry, I went too fast. It is the graph on current. Let me find it. Well, where's it at? Oh, I'm sorry. It's under L for liquidity. It's the liquidity ratio. So here are the liquidity ratios. So here is the picture. It has the data that comes from the statements. Here is a picture of what that looks like. In your analysis, this is what I expect. I expect a paragraph or two that talks about liquidity, what it means, how it affects the company, a variety of aspects of liquidity, so we understand what your analysis is going to mean for the company. Following that, I would like to have a description of the ratios, right? In this case, there are 3 ratios. Each one needs a paragraph or two. As you can see here, we have blue and orange. The blue line here is Harley, and the orange line is the industry. So as you can see that except until this last year, Harley has had a greater current ratio than the industry. The industry looks fairly stable, but if you can see, it looks like there's a downward slide in liquidity for Harley. What does that mean? Well, it means that liquidity talks about ability to turn cash. They're losing some of that ability. So when you're talking about the current ratio and you recognize that maybe it's getting a little bit worse, is there something about the company that you know that can help explain that? You won't always have that answer, but you might, right? So you could read, what I would suggest is maybe get to the annual report of the company for the most recent year, and I would review what's referred to as management's discussions. That will give you an idea of how management's explaining what happened in the most recent year. So for each one of these sections of ratios, again, there's basically 4 or 5 sections, I would expect to have 5 or 6 pages for each section. So that means this first paper the second paper you'll write is on liquidity and efficiency. So you should roughly have, I would estimate, 12 to 13 pages of information. And these graphs, again, if you click on the graph, you can copy this graph, right? You just click on the outside. You can copy the graph and paste special into the Word document so that it accompanies your illustration. So that's the kind of information that I want. Just as a sidebar, we'll talk about this from time to time. There are no right or wrong answers, right? I mean, if you're showing me, you're saying, look, liquidity is going down, and you try to tell me that that's a good thing, I know that that's not true, right? So I'm looking for logic, right? What is the piece of information that you can tell me that explains this in a certain way so that it makes sense? And then that it connects to the other ratios, because the current ratio is related to the quick ratio. The quick ratio is related to the cash. They're all related. So there should be a string of logic that flows through this set of ratios that you can help to explain the company's ability to make payment on their short-term debt. So that's essentially what I want for the project.